Whenever we see a keep out sign, we're always intrigued as to what's truly behind that door. Is the sign based on security or something more serious? Well, today we're showing you 10 places around the world you're not allowed to visit, but they're all for very good reasons. We'll let you into a secret because we've got one place we'll give you full permission to visit, and that's the secret vault of the Hub. Before we start, click subscribe and you'll be able to access as many videos as you'd like. But shh. Big Ben. When we talk about Big Ben, you might be surprised to know that we're not referring to the landmark in London, England, but instead to the volcano just off the coast of Western Australia. Big Ben, or as it's more commonly known as, Heard Island, is actually the top part of an active stratovolcano in Kerguelen Plateau in southern Indian Ocean. It's about 4,000 kilometers away from Australia, so it's not somewhere you could accidentally stumble across if you were touring the country. Big Ben is uninhabitable because every so often, he lets it rip. And since 1980, remote censoring has detected some movement. Unfortunately, this is starting to appear more and more frequently, meaning that another big eruption could be on the cards. At its highest peak, the mountain sits at just over 9,000 feet, making it the highest point of Australia territory outside of Antarctica. Not only is it remote, but it also has adverse weather conditions, meaning that only the bravest of wanderers have visited the land. Snake Island. In contrast to our last forbidden place, Snake Island was named specifically because of the deadly snake that lives there. In fact, it's the only place on Earth where the golden lancehead viper has been spotted, and it's actually forbidden to visit the island as a result. Based just off the coast of Brazil, the Ilha de Quimate Grande is 430 square meters wide, and we're not sure how many snakes we could come across. It's thought that several thousand of these dangerous snakes inhabit the island, and with venom poisonous enough to kill a human outright, we're not too bothered about never being able to check it out for ourselves. Occasionally, a scientist will be granted a visit, but not without vast levels of protection and a very clear idea of what to look out for. Poachers also illegally wander around because, for some strange reason, these snakes can fetch a fortune on the black market. If you happen to catch one, you can sell it for around $30,000. Depths of the Amazon. Deep in Brazil's Amazon rainforest lie hundreds of uncontacted tribes and their individual territories. But with impressive survival methods, you'd certainly find it difficult to follow them. The Amazon is huge, and so there's plenty of space to go around for everyone who wants to take a visit to the rainforest. But for some people, that's just not enough. Many of these tribes are finding their homes destroyed and are having to pick up what's left and move on to the next place. As a result, they've gotten better and better at hiding away so their tribes can exist in peace. A lot of these individual groups of people you'll never hunt down. Living entirely away from civilization, most of them have weapons we only see in movies. This is one reason why many people who live near the area decide not to venture too far into the Amazon. Partially for fear of what they might find, but also for the fear of never returning. North Sentinel Island. Another island based in the Indian Ocean, the North Sentinel Island is home to an indigenous tribe called the Sentinelese, who are almost as far from civilization as we can imagine. This is entirely by choice, we should remember, to the extent that they even killed 2 illegal fishermen who happened to swim too close to their shores. The tribe can be traced back for around 60,000 years. A mini documentary was filmed about the area and struggled to make accurate guesses, but experts think there are between 40 and 500 of the tribe remaining. It's actually illegal to go within 3 miles to the island, which isn't too difficult because it's far out on the sea. If that wasn't enough, Indian officials have also made it a crime for anyone in the outside world to try and make contact with them. After a tsunami in 2004, the Indian Coast Guard tried to drop care packages on the island, only to be met with arrows in return. Put it this way, we don't think they're fond of strangers. Vault of the Secret Formula. Moving away from hidden tribes, we'll now go on to one of, if not the biggest, corporations in the world, Coca-Cola. Surely they can't really hide anything away, what with how big they are. Well, except for one crucial thing. If you've ever tried non-branded cola, you'll be crucially aware of the slight difference in taste. Nothing tastes exactly like Coca-Cola, except for the famous brand itself, and there's a reason for that. Because they keep the formula hidden away inside a secret vault. You might think this is a bit over the top because it's only a fizzy drink, right? The formula has been kept out of the public for 125 years now, and it shows no sign of revealing itself anytime soon. There's actually a whole interactive factory that tells you all about the history of the vault, without actually revealing to you the one thing you want to know. Lascaux Caves. Everybody wants to visit the Lascaux Caves in France so much that someone actually built a replica. And this is probably the one occasion when we'd agree that this was a good idea, because the actual caves are so precious that we wouldn't want anyone to accidentally ruin them. The original is thought to be around 17,300 years old, while the replicate cave art was open to the public in 1983. If you're not familiar with the Lascaux Caves, then we'll fill you in. They were discovered around 75 years ago and are filled with incredible illustrations. We're talking hand-painted images of horses, bulls, and deer. Few people have ever stepped inside the caves, and the growing problem of mold and fungus has made access even more limited. Now, even the scientists and historians who could have visited the caves for educational purposes aren't usually allowed either. Poveglia, Italy. This island has a nickname, and it's not one that really makes us want to visit. You know how some beautiful beaches around the world are known under different names, which gives us a nice picture of what to expect? Well, Poveglia, an Italian island, is sometimes known as Hell. The reason for this is quite obvious once you know the history of the place. Back in the days of the bubonic plague, the Romans wanted to stop the illness spreading. So, they decided that they'd separate the healthy from the ill and gave all the sick people their own little island. You guessed it, they were all taken away to Poveglia. Once the plague was over and the next big illness came along, the same thing happened. Over the years, the island became known for where you'd be shipped off to at the very first sign of illness. Eventually, it was just a whole pile of dead bodies. Nowadays, the horrors aren't over because the island is thought to be haunted. Cameras have been intentionally set up to track any mysterious goings-on and have heard creepy voices, strange bangs, and the odd footstep. Ise Shrine. This shrine in Japan is unlike almost every other because every 20 years, it's pulled down and rebuilt. Don't worry, unlike our last place, it's not haunted, but pulling it down has become such a tradition that locals don't really see the point in stopping now. It also helps with the consistent erosion that seems to creep up on the building. If you're lucky, you can visit the Ise Shrine at just the right moment. If not, when it's knocked down, it's left as a sacred place for the next 20 years. Which limits your viewing. White pebbles are dotted around, and a single post around 7 feet high is placed in the center. It's a tradition that the Japanese take very seriously. Aside from the actual shrine, the local area has some parts that are almost impossible to enter. There are two main tiny thatched huts, which are surrounded by wooden fences and acres of land. A lot of it has never been touched since the shrine's foundation, which shows you just how rarely some parts of the area are visited. But even between the two popular areas are 4 miles of land, meaning it takes a lot of dedication on foot to get from one to the other. Tradition says the shrine dates back to the year 4 BC, but historians can only trace it back to the 3rd century AD. The Secret Tomb of China. The location of this place is pretty ironic, because it's actually based in central China. However, access to the real tomb is virtually impossible because it's surrounded by a thick layer of poisonous mercury. Beyond the mercury is a big hill, and sleeping peacefully inside is China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, who died September 10th in the year 2010 BC. He's been lying there for around 2,000 years. Not only would it be terribly frowned upon to try and access the tomb, but it would also be really dangerous. Because of how old it is, even the most highly trained scientists have no idea the sort of state the inside would be like, or how they would even get inside in the first place. Archaeologists have been digging around the outskirts of the area for around 4 decades now, but they haven't dared to enter the main one. Surtsey. Most of the places we've talked about on this list are renowned for being really old. Surtsey, a tiny island near Iceland, was only actually born in November of 1963. It was discovered when a column of smoke started rising up from the sea. Thought it was a neighboring ship that had caught fire. He moved closer before realizing it was a volcanic eruption with black bursts of ash exploding from above. This continued for a couple of years, until the new island was around 1,640 feet long and 147 feet high. That's pretty big for something that came from nothing. It's difficult to visit as it is, and scientists calculate that it'll be back down to sea level or even below by the year 2100. What's also interesting about this island is that it could technically disappear at any time. We guess we'll have to wave goodbye to Surtsey eventually. If that hasn't made you think twice about where to take your next holiday, then we don't know what will. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.